My name is Terry York, as you can see in the little slot there. I just found out a moment ago that I will not be able to see you, or possibly even not able to hear you. But what I'm hoping is, and I'm asking you, I've built this session based on interaction for us having conversation as much as possible. I think we will have to facilitate that through the chat room that's available. On my screen, it's over to the right. So please let me encourage you as we move along. You have any questions or comments, if you will put those up, we will pause what we're doing and make this as conversational as possible. Where I want to get started is with a statement, with an idea that has nothing to do with us having been gone for a year and a half and now back in. It's just true all the time. And that is that church music, as you know, the church music ministry exists to set to music those facets of the life of the church that can be set to music. For instance, our worship obviously can be set to music. Our ministries of one sort or another, some of them can be set to music. Our outreach into a community or missions can be set to music. Many of our educational programs can be set to music. So it's the work of church music ministry to set to music as much of the life and work of the church as possible. Now, kind of set that aside in a second sort of beginning statement for us. And that is this, that we're dealing with virtual. We've been to virtual and now we're coming back, at least in part, if not fully, from virtual. So one of the definitions of the word virtual has been, or is this, that actual virtual is being actually such in almost every aspect. That is, if we want to have virtual conversation, we will have a conversation as being actually a conversation in almost every aspect. By definition, in our case now, our worship has been worship in almost every aspect, actual worship in almost every aspect. And the word almost in the definition here is an opportunity for us to assess, what did we miss? What was missing when we were fully online? We weren't able to meet yet. What was missing? And then to ask ourselves, can music ministry help facilitate or even enhance the great returning, if you will, to in-person worship? So again, if I can just kind of review, church music ministry exists to set to music the life and work of the church in as many aspects of it that can be set to music. Okay, the church is coming back now in the same room, sometimes masked, sometimes not, depending on where you are. We're coming back into the same room. Can this coming back into in-person worship somehow or other be facilitated or even enhanced by a new understanding of how music might accompany it? Is there a soundtrack? Is there a church music soundtrack that can accompany our coming back together? So what have we missed most while forced to worship home? Well, we're going to see. Now that we come back, we're going to see, what is it that we bring back? What did we leave at home? What did we leave in the sanctuary the first time, and we're not going to pick it up when we come back? And some of you have already begun this project. I'm quite aware of that. Some of you have begun this project of, now we come back, what do we sing? What do we play? When and how do we do it? Others of you may be contemplating the return of the congregation to the sanctuary, masked or unmasked, distanced or not. So either way, it is my hope that we would be able to help each other here this afternoon as we venture out of our dens and away from our online worship, back into the sanctuary. How might the singing of choir and congregation facilitate or enhance this great returning? How might the congregation and the choir make this something special, or to underscore what we found out was special. So we must not lose this rare and costly opportunity to think about church music ministry. I think we, as worship planners and worship leaders, the musicians, it is our job to say, okay, we left, we couldn't take everything with us when we went online. We're coming back online, back to in person. Will we bring everything back as if nothing had happened? Or have we learned something? What was really important to us? What's not so important to us? What will we bring back? What we will decide, what we can get along without that, even in full in-person worship. And what I want is for us to help each other take advantage of this opportunity to have this kind of an evaluation. It's cost us a year and a half of being gone. Let's not waste this. Let's find out what is it that we can learn to enhance our worship as we come back together. Many have been asking the question, what have we most missed while we've been forced to worship virtually from home? I think that question is the key to the guidance we seek from each other. Let's plan and prepare to provide for our congregations the thing that they missed the most during the COVID-induced congregational diaspora. Let's see how much of it we can sing back into being, maybe even back and beyond. So first and foremost, it seems to me that what we missed was we missed each other. I am a textbook example of an introvert, and I mean that sincerely. As much as I'm in front of people, I'm an introvert, and it just sucks the energy out of me. And I have to get alone, and then energy comes back. So I'm a textbook example of an introvert, but I confess to you that even I have missed the gathering together of our congregation. I really have. And it's been a surprise to me that I missed people as much as I did. So the single and simple act of coming back together has been, our church has just started coming back. We've had 2 Sundays now of being back inside the building. We've had some Sundays here in Waco, Texas, where we were outside. We have a grove of big oak trees, and we call it the Oak Chapel, but it's all outside. So we went from online into the Oak Chapel outside. For the last 2 Sundays, we've been back inside, unmasked, and being careful as we can about social distancing, but still much closer together than before. So the simple act of coming back together has been a joy and a source of thanksgiving for all of us. So again, I ask, how might we focus on the blessing of coming back together as church musicians? I think of some just the Thanksgiving songs, we gather together. That now has new meaning. So let's think about this for a moment. Perhaps we can reimagine our call to worship or our gathering celebration that begins our morning together. Perhaps this gathering together or this call to worship might take on a more spiritual rather than a social dimension. Now, I'm not against the social dimension, shaking hands, hugging, say hello, and all that kind of thing that we would do before. In our church, we just did a simple passing the peace. The Lord is with you and also with you, or the peace of Christ be with you, and the peace of Christ be with you as well. And it had, it sounds spiritual. It's had a social thing to it. Let's greet everyone. But I'm thinking now to see everyone and to greet them is something more. It is a social event. It is an overcoming of the lockdown. But can it be now, do we have a window, maybe a short window, of making this gathering and this coming back together a more spiritual dimension to it, making it more of a more spiritual enterprise, a more spiritual happening? And I would love to know what some of you have experienced with that already. If anything, what are your thoughts about the gathering together, the call to worship, the gathering time of being more uh, spiritually oriented than socially oriented? Deep thanksgiving for having come through the week, now having come through the year. Deep thanksgiving for the blessing of community. Can we explore these types of focus as new levels of awareness and entrance into worship? A new level then as well of musical involvement. If this is going to, if we are more joyful than usual, our hearts are warmed more than usual to finally be back together again, is there not a musical expression of that? Is there not a way for the choir or the congregation to um, underscore it, to highlight it, that this is something special? And again, I encourage you to hop on the chat there or some way or other to get to us, uh, so that we can help each other with this a little bit. Okay, let me see here from Brenda. I've lost one of my altos to an unexpected reappearance of cancer, and I have 3 other members who are now too elderly or ill to return. Returning seems so difficult because we can't all be together again. Oh well, that's yeah, that's Brenda. That's a very difficult situation, and one that's obviously very much within your context. But now, even that's more important to us, is our context uh, now becomes our world, if you will, and a world that needs attention and needs ministry. Um, so returning seems so difficult because it can't be together again, all be together. I think that's all the more reason, Brenda, and maybe you could share with us what your thinking is, how you plan to approach this. But for us to, it's all the more reason, I think, for us to celebrate the fact that we are back together again and to commemorate the occasion. I would say not just once, but maybe on a weekly basis, each Sunday. And maybe there can be a time in that to not only celebrate our coming back in a deeply spiritual way, but to also say, and here are some folks that we know cannot be back with us, maybe even to call their names. Uh, but I would think that there would be ways for the congregation or choir or whatever musical resources you have to underscore this coming back, underscore this the deep emotional um, blessing and tug at our hearts that we've been away for a long time, and our coming back is no small thing, is the main thing. Now, the mirror image of this, of course, is the end. We're talking now, how can we, the coming back, not just together, 2 things happening at once, the coming back from online into inside our building, but now also the beginning of the service, the call to worship, the gathering. The mirror image of this, of course, is the benediction or the dismissal or the sending forth, whatever your church might call it. So we're going to celebrate getting in, but now the getting out takes on new meaning. Wasn't it in the middle of March in 2020? We left on a Sunday. See you next Sunday. Nope, we didn't see each other for a year and a half. And now we know that could happen. So even our sending forth, our benediction, our dismissal is heavier, it's weightier, it's new to us. Um, so how we depart is worthy of new thought and new spiritual enrichment. Since we now know that saying goodbye for a week might turn into a separation of a year or more. So how might we bless each other more deeply as we leave our gathered worship? And it comes to mind that maybe sung blessings or corporate readings or benediction, uh, perhaps a litany, if you will, even a sung litany that allows us to hear each other's voices once more, while at the same time speaking our love and God's love into the week that's about to come. So again, Can we take this idea that now we're leaving? We think just for a week, but we now know it could be more. So our leaving is going to be full of blessing. It's going to be full of expression to God and to each other, how much we mean to each other. Maybe that's sung, choir and congregation together, choir and congregation, different um, combinations. Maybe it's a litany that is spoken, um, but we want to hear each other's words one more time before we leave for what we hope is just simply a week. Again, most intriguingly, perhaps we can sing the enhancement of this dismissal, sing the enhancement of coming back together now that it means more to us, sing the enhancement of these movements out of corporate worship out into the week that is ahead of us. My preference would be for the departing to be a sacred moment and a spirit-filled expression of love and community, not flighty or shallow, either the gathering or the dismissal. I think now this has become a heavier thing and not something that needs to just be treated lightly, like a party is beginning, thus as excited as we may be. How can we sing weightiness to the coming together each Sunday? How can we sing weightiness to the dismissal and the departing? Uh, in any case, coming back together again after a long absence is a time to be thoughtful, to be mindful of the blessing of gathering together as brothers and sisters. And the weight of departing is equal to that. It's similar. We have missed the encouragement that we gain from each other, encouragement that is richer than virtual. So let me pause here just for a minute, see if anyone else wants to pop up on the chat uh, concerning this particular idea, the weightier entrance, weightier dismissal. I see, Brenda, so you don't even want to return because so it's painful. That I understand. I wonder if this isn't exposing some new ministry opportunities um, for us that can show up to those who can't. I don't know. Anyone else that wants to pop up on the chat room? Okay, not sure how many we got out there. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, we've got quite a few. All right, good. All right, well, I will keep on talking. Um, the second thing that we might have missed, second in line might be that we have missed the actual place of our gathering. We've missed each other indeed, but we've missed the actual place of our gathering. And this, for some people, I think, is a surprise. For some, it's not a surprise, but for others, it is. We're discovering again, either for the first time we're encountering this, or we're rediscovering that place matters. As novel and comfortable as it was to watch worship virtually from my recliner in my den, I eventually began to miss not only the people, but also the sanctuary. In our church, we have a very beautiful sanctuary. It's very simple, but it's tasteful, and it's a very special and holy place for us. But I began to remember, in sitting at home in a recliner, I began to remember details of the sanctuary and to discover how those details speak to me each Sunday. It's really quite interesting that I didn't think I paid that much attention to the sanctuary until I wasn't there, and then I began to miss, or at least remember, the significance of different facets of our sanctuary, as simple as it is. I began to remember the details of the sanctuary and to discover how those details speak to me each Sunday. So I would ask of us, knowing that we might have a new appreciation for the very place that we gather, I'm wondering, Are there ways that we can draw appropriate attention to how the details of our sanctuaries contribute to our worship? How does the room speak to us? And they do. The places where we worship speak to us. They enhance certain kinds of worship. They allow certain kinds of worship. And sometimes they even squelch just the way that the sanctuary is built and how it looks and how it speaks. I say to my students from time to time, our sanctuaries encourage some things, allow some things, and say no to some things as far as worship is concerned. And maybe we can discover those or rediscover those and let our music now be in harmony more than ever before with the very sanctuary itself and what it means to us and what it says to us. Our places of worship do speak into our experiences of worship. Perhaps each week we could explain or emphasize a different item or feature of the worship space, focusing on what its contribution to our worship and time together is. Perhaps we could sing from around the walls. Now, this isn't new. I'm not coming up with brand new ideas, just things we've seen before. Maybe we can bring them into church or do them again, and this time with more understanding, with more depth to them. Perhaps we can sing from around the walls when we first come in to tie the second idea and the first idea together, the second missing of our place of gathering and the first missing of each other. Maybe one of the things that we can do is to enhance this opening by singing around the walls of the sanctuary, or from up and down the aisle or aisles, or even from our seats out among the congregation, so that just the very seeing of the choir or the groups or hearing of them is somehow or other enhanced by it being in different parts of the space of our sanctuary. One of the things that I enjoy about Advent, Christmas, is the way that we decorate our sanctuary. And the way we do that, for me, just I would say, oh yes, there is that part of the room, there is that part of the sanctuary, and that is enhanced, and that's made aware to me by how it is decorated for special seasons, Advent and others. Maybe now, because the entrance is going to mean more to us, and the people who are there mean more to us, the sanctuary now means more to us. We're glad we're back, and we look at it again and remember, oh yes, this is that wonderful place. Can we bring congregational or choir music that helps us celebrate the room itself as a place of worship? Celebrate the room itself as an enhancement of worship, and do that musically, not just for the musicians, but for the choir. Now, before we get to that too much, let me see what's going on over here in the chat room. Okay. I feel that seeing the people in the sanctuary brings a certain type of energy for those that participated at church for virtual worship. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what it is that we need to be taking advantage of. And then for Stuart, though our choir is less in number, I have worked to adapt our repertoire to the choir that we presently have, striving toward continued musical excellence and leading our people in worship. We also pray together as a group for those who are not back with us. That's wonderful, Stuart and Dorada. You're both, I think, and Todd, speaking back into what Brenda was sharing with us earlier. And do you see now this room and the people who are in it and what's taking place in it has new meaning? And all I'm asking in our session together today is this: is there a way that that can be enhanced musically? Now, the answer may be no, not this part, and that's okay. But the answer may be yes, let's keep doing what we were doing before, but now with a new facet of it showing, now with a new understanding. Or let's bring in some new kinds of awareness, new kinds of underscoring these things that we see have become important to us. So hymns and anthems that underscore the significance of the place, rather than, you know, I hear from my students a lot, well, it doesn't matter where we worship, and place shouldn't be that important to us. It doesn't matter where we worship. We can worship out under a tree, or we can worship at the lake, or we can worship. And I would say, yes, but that tree now becomes very important to you. Next time you see that tree, having worshiped under it, it's going to be something special to you. Place does matter. Now, we're not to worship the place, but we worship in the place, and the place helps us. So, is there music that can underscore that? And I see Todd saying here, same as Stuart, unfortunately, much of my library is not usable right now. It's suited to a choir that has basses. I have none, and sopranos who are still young enough to hit and project the high notes, but we're still making music. And that's the way to do it, Todd. And when I would say this to students, and I love to say it to conferees, and you already know this, you do the best you can with what you have. That means, what else can you do? You can't just stop and say, we don't have enough to do anything. You do the best you can with what you have. And even that is going to be such a tremendous move beyond not being able to do anything because we were online, or doing some online music of one sort or another, but now we're in person. Oh, some struggling in person to me is very exciting compared to sophisticated online. And I think your people might feel the same way. Anyone else want to jump in related to the fact that we missed the place of our gathering, and music might be able to help us have a new sense of the holiness of the place, and an awareness? Anybody else want to jump in on that? I'll keep an eye over on that side of the screen to see if that comes up. I'm also seeing over there that time's moving away. Let's look at the third thing, that what we have missed. I like that, Todd. Yeah, we can worship at the lake, or you worship at deer blind, but will you? Let's get back to the sanctuary. Yeah, you know, those I understand that, and I agree with it. I get a chuckle out of it, but I would also say, coming back to the sanctuary now takes on new importance, and let's not waste it. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's look at this. Third in our list of what we missed while we were worshiping virtually might be this: the blessing of public witness. Blessing of public witness. Let me talk about this one a little bit. This one might be a surprise to us, but each time our congregation drives into our parking lot and makes it their way to the sanctuary, it is a public declaration that Jesus is Lord. Think about that. One of the things that has missed, now I don't know if this can be set to music or not, but it's one of the things that has been missed: the blessing of public witness. When people drive by and they see cars turning into your parking lot, they see people getting out and walking into the sanctuary, it is a public declaration that what else may be going on in the world, this is true. Jesus is Lord. Now, when we start driving back into the parking lots and walking into the sanctuary, we are saying, despite a year and a half of COVID, a year and a half of being separated, Jesus is still Lord. And this is not boasting. This is not a demonstration of spiritual superiority. It is an undeniable and unhidden testimony, no matter what, Jesus is Lord, and that we gather to declare Jesus is Lord in corporate worship. The blessing of public witness, we miss it. No one sees us click to our online laptop worship. No one sees that. But the whole world, as it were, can observe our dedication to God as we purposefully drive to the church, get out, drive into the parking lot, get out, and walk in. We are saying Jesus is Lord. And it's a political statement, not a red or a blue political statement. It is a kingdom of heaven, kingdom of this world political statement. We demonstrate our love and allegiance to God as we assemble in public. I missed that when it wasn't happening. It felt like we weren't saying enough to the world. We were worshiping, and that was important. It's worship to God, that's important. And we were aware virtually, even as we are right now this afternoon, that each other was there, but the public witness wasn't there. I miss that. Now, I know people could click in and see our worship services, and maybe they will now from around the world that we hadn't met before. I still say it's not the same as the public witness of us in person showing up, parking in the parking lot, walking into the sanctuary. Perhaps this, I don't know, maybe this is one of them that can't be set to music, but perhaps this could be acknowledged and celebrated as we come back together. What if we processed in groups or as a group publicly? I don't know how in the world that would happen, and I know my minister of music, I saw her name there, Susan. I know that you're watching, and I'm not going to get crazy here, but what if we, the choir, processed in groups or as a group from where our choir room is and where into the sanctuary? For some, that would be outdoors. For us, it's outdoors. There's a little patch of it that's outdoors. Could there be some sort of, when the weather allows, an outdoor processing in, even if our choir room is somehow attached to the sanctuary? Could there be a processional that goes outdoors? So if somebody driving by looks and sees, they see this blessing of the public witness that Jesus is Lord, singing as we go, witness to the world that Jesus is Lord, singing our way from wherever the choir meets into the sanctuary. Maybe as in the case of our church, that happens anyway. We're outside for a little bit. Maybe we need to go outside, take a longer route. Think about this, a procession that's a longer route than usual, because it's celebrating the fact we get to come back into church. We get to come back into worship. This witness would also serve as sort of, in our society, in our culture, demonstration. Again, we're demonstrating Jesus is Lord, and that means something to us. An act of worship when we return and continue doing this, not just when we return, as a new facet of our corporate worship experience every Sunday. Something to think about as we discover that we've missed the opportunity for public witness by not showing up at church. I don't know. Maybe this is too far-fetched to think that this has a soundtrack, that this can be somehow or other set to music. But I'm trying to imagine, in the church where I attend, what if we didn't just walk from where we rehearse, warm up, outside for just a little ways and then into church? What if we did that singing Jesus is Lord, or some other thing that says to the whole wide world, we are delighted that we get to march back into the sanctuary. And we're going to sing for any who might observe, or sing outdoors on the way, just to suggest that this pilgrimage into the sanctuary is now more special to us than it's ever been before. We could turn that around and add to it a recessional at the end of this church into worship that goes back out. I don't know. Maybe this one can't be set to music. Maybe you all are coming up with some ways that can be set to music. And if you would, hop up on the chat room there and tell us. But this is something we've missed, the blessing of public witness. Is there anything we can do with it as choir congregation? I don't know. I would like to think there is, but I really don't know. I will watch to see if anybody jumps up over there and says, yeah, I think we could do that, or here's how we've been doing it, or here's what I think about it. Please don't lag behind. If you would like to jump up on the chat room and help us here. I've always loved processionals and recessionals, always. And now I think to walk into the sanctuary means more than it ever has before. To walk out means more than it ever has before. And I think it deserves a processional and a recessional every Sunday. If for nothing else, to remember this COVID thing and all the people that we lost and all of the time together that we lost. We're going to remember those people. We're going to remember those days. We're going to thank God for the fact that we can come together, and we're going to not take for granted that when we walk out of this room, we'll see each other next week. This processional and recessional says to the world, if they get to see it, if we're outside any in our processing, Jesus is Lord for those folks, going into the sanctuary and coming out. And it commemorates in the very movement. This is a new special ritual for us. Ritual is not a bad word. This is a new special moment of witness and worship for us. We're going to remember when we couldn't come in by coming in a procession. We're going to remember when we go out. We may not see each other as soon as we think, and that's going to be commemorated in a recessional. I don't know. That may be stretching it too thin, but I want to get some ideas out there. Let's see there, Rick. I love the idea of processing into an Alleluia setting, such as the refrain you have put on Christ. Yeah, the repertoire for this is almost without limit, and you can write it. If you're in a church, in our church, we have some folks, including our choir director Susan, that can write for us, can arrange. But there's plenty of things out there that can sing us in, witnessing to Jesus as Lord as we go in, saying we're coming back and thank you, God, for that when we go in. And when we turn around and going out, saying we don't know when we'll see each other again, but it's been glorious being here, and we're going to witness to the world as we walk back out in it. Jesus is Lord. I think that processional and recessional has a real possibility. Well, let's move on to some others. Something to think about as we discover that we've missed public witness. Now, a fourth one. We have missed participation. As much as we have tried, and very creative folks in churches all around the world have done some remarkable work in helping us to participate. Choirs in congregations and others participate, but we have missed participation in the way that we've known it best. This is similar to our missing the people, but there's a significant difference. Our participation through singing is encouraged by physical gathering, much more so than singing with the computer at home. I tried that. Time or two sitting at home in my den, singing along when it's time for the hymn. I confess to you, I didn't always do it because it seemed a bit manufactured and not as participatory as I had hoped. I did from time to time, not always. Our participation through reading of litanies and corporate prayers is encouraged and enhanced through the physical proximity. It becomes a congregational thing, and the congregational thing has a 2 + 2 = 5 sort of feel to it. It means more. In that physical proximity, it gives us something that's not afforded virtually, no matter how clever we get at singing together. So perhaps upon our return, we could include more corporate expression for the purpose of inviting and celebrating participation, maybe more than we have before we sing together, maybe more than we have before we sing anthems that include congregational, maybe hymn settings that include a congregational participation. Maybe we somehow or other have more responsive readings, more litanies, more readings in unison, just to hear each other's voices and to say we are indeed together again. Maybe it's as simple as, kind of an old Sunday night Baptist feel thing. Let's just, on this stanza, just the women, on this stanza, just the men, this chorus, just the men, just the women, or whatever. But for us to hear each other and be made aware we are together, and to celebrate the fact that we are together and that we are participating together. Seeing each other is wonderful. Being in the same room is wonderful. Now we're going to actually participate together because for so long we could not. And that's something that we have missed. We've missed participation. And let's see what else we've got coming in here. Charles Fry. Hey, Charlie. One thing we miss is the opportunity to encourage each other. Yes, absolutely. And you've given a scriptural basis for that. To encourage each other. Even as our chat started here from the very beginning, there's this sense that we need encouragement. We can't just come back as if nothing has happened. Different people have had different kinds of losses, loved ones and friends and jobs and sense of security and these kinds of things. And we can encourage each other. A ministry that requires participation, a ministry that is enhanced by participation. That's a great point. And I think that this is something we, as the worship planners and the worship leaders, need to give some thought to. Uh, Not just say, yeah, that's kind of interesting. No, to say, now in my planning and my leading, I'm going to underscore as I can this situation in which participation, like every other thing we've talked about, means more to us than it's ever meant before. Um, so there is that. I want to move on, and we can come back and discuss some of these. Fifth thing, let's put this one up there, Breck. The fifth thing is we have missed our heritage. That is our link to a corporately worshiping lineage. It is our heritage as brothers and sisters in Christ to come together to worship. Now we can add to, I can worship at the lake, I can worship at the deer blind, I can worship wherever. Now we can add, and I can worship online. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, even though we have questions about it. But there is this that we have missed, and maybe we didn't realize it until it was no longer with us. We have a heritage of being there with each other and for each other. And we've discovered that. We've rediscovered it. This is a heritage. Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 that you see on the screen, those are important. That's why they're in those numbers. But number 5 is not unimportant. It has a place on the list. We are congregationalists. We are congregationalists. All of us, no matter if you're here, if you're watching this, your church wants to be together as a congregation. And we've missed that link to our heritage. To stay at home and worship virtually is to break from this birthright that was given to us by those who came before us. To return to in-person corporate worship is to restore our connection to our past. It is to restore our stewardship of the birthright. And even as I share that with you now, I'm thinking, oh God, our help in ages past, our hope to years to come. I'm thinking of hymns and other songs that speak of those who have come before us, the saints who've come before us. Now they mean something more to us, don't they? The gathering together is in a lineage and a heritage that those who've come before us have given to us. They've passed it on to us. We missed it for a year and a half. We're coming back. Can we sing an enhancement of this? Can we sing a recognition of this? This includes our awareness of responsibility to pass corporate worship on to our children. Think of that. I don't want my grandkids to think that church is this screen that I see in front of me. Please, Lord, no. Church worship is the coming together great-grandparents and grandparents and parents and now us, and we move it on. This includes our awareness of our responsibility to children. This is our heritage. Can we acknowledge that gift and that birthright in the worship that we design as we come back? And in that acknowledgement, is there a soundtrack to it? What if we had more choir music that included both the adult and the children's choirs on a regular basis? Some churches even have multi-generational choirs. That needs to be put on the list of things to consider, though it's not practical in some places. But what if we had more music that included adult and children's choirs as we're underscoring the heritage that was put at risk, the heritage that we missed during this time? What if when the children came forward for the children's sermon, they stayed up there to sing the anthem with the adults before returning to their parents and back to those seats? What if in some way or another we were able to acknowledge who are the senior adults among us and who are the children among us? And is there something musical that these folks could do? I don't know. Maybe the senior adults stand and the children stand, everybody else stays seated. And we sing a song that the senior adults have known all their lives and the children just learned. And we in the middle, well, now I'm on the senior adult end, but the people in the middle see the senior adults and the children singing together, and then it's all, in this instance, in this thing that we've missed, an underscoring of our heritage of corporate worship. Can we sing that underscoring? What if the children joined the senior adults for singing of a particular hymn? I don't know. Again, maybe this is one of those that's not so easily set to music, but I do think it's something that we have missed in our diaspora. Let's look to see if there are ways that music can bring this back together in a new way, if it's something we've been doing all along, or in something that's very fresh, if it's just we haven't started until this return. We missed each other. Can we sing it? We missed the place of our gathering. Can we sing that? The blessing of public witness was shut down. It's back. Is there any way to enhance that? Choir, congregation, processionals, recessionals? We've missed participation in the encouraging, as Charlie reminded us, the encouraging of each other, encouraging of each other, to hear the voices. We've missed our heritage at work, our link to corporate worship as a responsibility that has come to us and responsibility that we pass along. Oh, I know there's some facets of our society and our culture that are going to be vastly different because of the screen that we're all staring at. Business office buildings, shopping malls, they may get bulldozed down or repurposed. Let's not let that happen to the sanctuary. And the music can remind us, and we even take the music home with us then. Oh, we missed each other, but we're back together. Sing it. We missed the place of gathering, but we were there today. Wasn't it wonderful? Let's sing it. Hey, we saw some cars driving by and they saw us. Isn't that wonderful? They're again seeing that Jesus is Lord, gets us moving even on Sunday. We've missed participating with each other, participating and being there with each other. Isn't it wonderful? Can we sing that even when we go home and remember it and look forward to it next Sunday or next month or next year? We've missed our heritage. Can we sing that heritage, this God of ages past, years to come, sung by adults and children? What if there's a scripture reading some Sunday morning that an 82-year-old and a 10-year-old take turns reading the scripture, and they're up there It's because they show us this heritage and we've come together and the congregation joins them. Some of the congregation reads with the child, and some reads with the 82-year-old person. And somehow then there's corporate singing that underscores we're back again generationally. We're back again with our heritage. I don't know how all of this works. I don't know if it's all musically, if it adapts itself, opens itself up to music. But it's worth thinking about. And I think more than worth thinking about, it is our responsibility to think about it. I would love for some more of you to join in on the thinking out loud about this. To be honest with you, this is what I have to say. And I want to hear your response to it. I want to read and see your responses to these things, so because that can be as helpful to us as anything else that I've said, or even more so. What have you done already? What are you thinking about doing? What are some things that you would add to this list that we've missed? What are some things that you would add to how we might respond to the things that we've missed? This is a little strange because I can't see your faces. I can't even hear your voices. But I want to give you time to think out loud, and if you will, enter it into this chat room. Anyone over there at all? What are you thinking? I tell my students at the end of class, what are you thinking after all of this? It's great if you follow me back to my office and we have individual conversation about it, but I wish you had said that, or I wish you had asked that question in class. There's some of those out there who are watching and listening. Yes, Debbie, that's a great one. Where you get that one, Debbie? Is it in a hymnal you have? We Are the Church. Is there a recording of that? But that's a great hymn for this whole conversation that we're having. And I can think not only of entire songs, but sometimes a stanza or a part of a song or just a refrain. That certainly would be true, and if we did any kind of recessional or processional, we would have to think about those possibilities. It would be true if we wanted the congregation to join generationally. We're going to have something that is, okay, the Methodist hymnal 558, thank you. I think part of what we're going to have to do is find music that says these kinds of things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, that says these kinds of things, but can, in fairly simple order, be sung by children, by adults, by senior adults, maybe even without music, but even as a response. Every church has, our church certainly does, has a certain repertoire that the congregation can sing from memory. And maybe those are things that are brought into play as we think about enhancing these things that we have missed now that they're coming back together again. Someone else, thanks, Debbie, for sharing that with us. I won't keep talking just because I can tell time. But I do want to leave some space here for questions, answers, comments, contributions. Okay, Stuart, let's see what we have here. We have recognized that we now have an on-campus congregation and an online congregation. We're now trying to find ways to get the online congregation engaged in ministry service projects and perhaps even fellowship opportunities among themselves. I'm considering offering them small group worship opportunities. That's very interesting, Stuart. Very interesting. And I love the creativity that we're opening ourselves up to. Even the way that you've put this on the column there on the chat uh, shows creativity. I can see and hear and feel the wheels, the gears turning in your head. I was so impressed during the COVID to see churches doing COVID caroling. That was pretty clever. Get together, however socially distanced they had to, and just like Christmas caroling, they go to people's houses and sing carols. What if, Stuart, if you found out where these people are, the online congregation, are there some on-campus singers that could go and do some kind of caroling for them? Some kind of, hey, you heard us sing this Sunday, now we're going to sing it for you here. I don't know, but it seems to me that there's some creativity there where some other people could step in and make something out of that. And I'm sure you're one of them, Stuart. Uh, but I like this idea of the online congregation and the on-campus congregation um, having some connection. Now, here's what I would say, just thinking about this. I don't know. I don't. You know far more about this than I do. I wouldn't worry that there is an on-campus and a online. Um, I don't think you're going to be able to get them together, and suddenly you have this great sort of double-barreled thing that they all know each other. We may just have to live, Stuart, and others, we may just have to live with the fact that now it's not just an early service and a late service. Now it's not just the traditional and the contemporary, but now we've got the on-campus and the online. And we've given energy to the early service, late service. We've given energy to the traditional and the contemporary, and rightly so. Now we should give energy to, as you put it here, Stuart, the online and the on-campus. We should do that. But I don't think it should become what we live for. Can we take what we have done out of necessity and enhance it in the sanctuary and online? Find some creative ways of getting the two folks together, the two groups together now and then, but not letting that be why we get up and why we go to sleep, and not letting that be, forgive me, but what we worship on Sunday morning. How well are we doing on Sunday morning of getting the on-campus and the online together? That can be why we go to church on Sunday, and it shouldn't be why we go to church on Sunday. Worship is too for and about God, not too for and about online and on campus. So your question is great. Your situation is one that many people can relate to. We should go forward with it creatively, finding new ways to get the folks together now and then. But we should not let the merging of these two be an unintended idol that we worship every Sunday. And I can say that and click off and be out of here. And you're the one that has to live with it. I'm aware of that. But I would say to you, go for it, Stuart. Put your best energy and your best thought into this, but don't let this eat your lunch for the next 10 years. We've all experienced being able to go to into sanctuary, having to stay home. We've all experienced different kinds of ways of being creative online. Let's enhance online. Let's enhance the going back to the sanctuaries we've talked about here for about an hour. But let's not let some new way of doing this become the idol that we serve each Sunday and that we worship. That's God. And let these other things, the coming together of them, happen, be enhanced, be creative, but not be what we worship. I hope that makes